Yes, my name is Gwen Bennett. I've had a long relationship with the AMC and I am a member to this day, yeah. I was on the board from 1985 and chair of the board for 5 years after that, 1986 to 95 years, yeah. And I've had quite a lot to do with it over the years, one way or another. I was always going to the concerts. It was right at the beginning in the 1970s, and it was a very dynamic place to go. Lots of music, concerts, composers. You could meet any number of composers there. It was very interesting, and it grew from that. There were always, parties as well. There was so much going on. There was Jamie Murdoch stirring up things, David Ahern stirring up things. All the other composers would get involved as well and stir up things. And it did really have an impetus on music as it developed in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And the Australian Music Centre used to administer funds. I remember it administering funds for the copying of parts, which I was marginally involved in. The funds would have come from the Australia Council. It's quite a long time ago, 40 years. That was an opera by Ross Edwards called Christina's World, one by Andrew Schultz called Black River, which was made into a film, and another one called Sin by Martin Friedel, which was a bit astonishing at the time because the soprano Meg Chilcott was a bit raunchy in that and got a bit of a name. And there was another one which I did not see. It was called The Owl by Nigel Butterley. Also from the Australia Council, funds would have come for a series of operas that I remember, which we put on at the Seymour Centre, and I was marginally involved in that as well. That would have been 1983. And of course there's always been the awards, which I've been involved in as chair of the panels for many years, and the Lowin Awards also administered by the AMC, and I was chair of the Lowin Awards for many years as well. We had the magazine, and it was called Sounds Australian, and I remember the name was thought up by Judy Gumson, who was one of the staff members at that time, and that has the sort of thing that you get in a music magazine, which you would do now online, I guess. The AMC ran a shop. Joan Boner ran it. It had scores, books and recordings. Now, there weren't a lot of recordings, but with this burgeoning of music that happened in the 70s, partly as a result of the starting up of the Australian Music Centre and other things, it was all sort of burgeoning along. One of the important things I did was appoint Dick Letts. When I first got the job as chairman of the board, the first thing that happened to me was the then manager, Frank Mayetta, said to me, can you have a cup of coffee with me? And I said, oh, sure. So we went down to the local coffee shop and he said, I'm resigning. So the very first thing I had to do as chair of the board was appoint a new manager, and that happened to be Dick Letts. Now, that was a great appointment because he's very clever, well-educated musically, and a very good administrator with a lot of experience, so he was a very, very good appointment. Yeah. I stopped being chair because I was actually in charge of music on ABC Radio, which was now called Classic FM, and I was just too busy, but I was always involved in whatever was going on. After I left that job, which was 1994, I think, I was chairing the panels for all the Sounds Australian Awards or Art Music Awards, and I did that for a long time. I also got an award myself for outstanding contribution, and that was 1996. Outstanding contribution to Australian music. The ABC also got an award for its contribution to Australian music, which was when I was at the ABC and promoting a lot of Australian music. When I started working at the BC, doing music programs, there was very little Australian music involved, very little at all. That started to change gradually, and with Dick and other people and musicians wanting to play Australian music, and yeah, I was all involved in all that. Yeah, and of course there's always the scores, the availability of the scores, which is crucial. Yeah, and that's where the AMC is really, the role now is really crucial.